My name is Sarah. I am 41 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I was the family's anchor. Not the kind that holds steady in a storm, but the kind everyone ties their boats to and expects it to just stay put. I was the fixer, the listener, the always available one. My house, a modest place I worked hard for, became the unofficial family hub. Holidays? My place. Someone needed a last-minute ride to the airport at dawn? Call Sarah. A sibling having a meltdown over a minor inconvenience? Sarah's shoulder was ready. A parent needed help navigating a new piece of technology? Sarah would be there in 20 minutes. It wasn't a formal role, nothing we ever discussed, but it was as real as any job I've ever held. For years, I told myself this was just what family did. We showed up for each other. There was a quiet pride in being needed, a sense of belonging woven into the constant requests. But lately, it felt less like belonging and more like being taken for granted. Like being an appliance they forgot to plug in until they needed it. I could see it in the way they'd end calls abruptly once their problem was solved, or how invitations to things I wanted to do were met with sighs about how busy they were. Little things adding up. The last year had been particularly rough for me. I went through a brutal breakup that left me hollowed out and struggling. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever faced. I reached out tentatively, needing my family to just be there. Not to fix it, just to listen. My sister Lily was always too swamped with work. My brother Alexander mumbled something about guy stuff and changed the subject. My mother offered platitudes that felt rehearsed and changed the topic back to her own minor stresses. It was like they couldn't handle it if I wasn't the strong one, the fixer. If I was the one who needed fixing, they just weren't available. That hurt more than I let myself admit at the time. Now, Dad's 65th birthday was approaching. A big one. Naturally, I assumed I'd be knee-deep in planning, probably hosting, definitely coordinating. It was just understood. But when I brought it up, mentioning checking dates and potential venues, the familiar vagueness started. Mom would say, "Oh, we'll figure something out, dear." Lily would text back, so swamped. "Talk later." Alexander wouldn't even reply, or give a thumbs-up emoji that meant absolutely nothing. It felt different this time, colder. An uneasy knot started forming in my stomach. Just a couple of weeks before Dad's birthday, right when I was still wrestling with the emotional fallout from the breakup and trying to get back on my feet, Lily called me in a panic. Her car had broken down hours away while she was on a weekend trip. She needed to get back for something super important the next day. She sounded desperate. Despite feeling utterly depleted myself, despite having planned a rare quiet Saturday to recharge, I dropped everything. I drove 3 hours, picked her up, and drove 3 hours back. 6 hours round trip, navigating traffic, listening to her stress the entire way. I bought her dinner. I didn't complain. It cost me most of my day and a chunk of gas money I hadn't planned on spending. When I dropped her off, she gave me a quick hug, said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver," and rushed inside. No offer of gas money, no asking how I was doing, not even a text later that night to check if I got home okay. It was just expected. Another transaction complete. After that, my attempts to nail down birthday plans felt even more urgent, and their evasiveness felt almost insulting. I texted the family group chat. "Hey, everyone thinking about Dad's birthday. Should we start firming up plans? Happy to host or help scout venues." Lily replied hours later, "Oh, already handled." Alexander sent a sticker. Mom replied, "Yes, exciting. Details soon." It was like they were talking around something, just out of my earshot. Lily started posting vague things on her social media, photos of a nice-looking restaurant she checked out, comments about "can't wait for next weekend." It felt pointed, like she was dangling pieces of a puzzle I wasn't invited to solve. The knot in my stomach tightened into a hard, painful ball. I tried calling Mom, but she didn't pick up. Called Alexander, straight to voicemail. Lily texted back, still swamped. Crazy week. I started checking their social media more, feeling a pit of dread open up. Were they planning something without me? It seemed impossible. Why would they? After everything? Especially after I'd just gone so far out of my way for Lily? I told myself I was being paranoid, that my recent breakup was making me fragile and oversensitive. They wouldn't do that. They couldn't do that. Not my family. I clung to that belief, even as the silence from them grew louder and the whispers of doubt in my own head became harder to ignore. The morning of Dad's birthday dawned bright and clear. I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Surely they would call today, confirm details, tell me where and when to show up, what to bring. My phone sat on the counter, stubbornly silent. I busied myself around the house, trying to distract myself, glancing at the phone every few minutes. Noon came and went. Then 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Nothing. No call, no text. Just the heavy, suffocating silence that had become a constant companion over the last week. Feeling a growing sense of panic mixed with confusion, I picked up my phone and, with a trembling finger, opened Instagram. And there it was. A flood of photos and videos posted within the last hour. My family. Mom, Dad, Lily, Alexander, Lily's new boyfriend, Alexander's long-term partner, all dressed up, smiling, holding glasses of champagne. They were at a beautiful restaurant downtown, one Lily had vaguely mentioned checking out weeks ago. The table was set with flowers. Dad was beaming. Everyone was laughing. The captions hit me like a physical blow. Lily had posted a carousel of photos with the caption, "Amazing time celebrating Dad's 65th with the people who matter most. So much love in one room." Alexander had posted a blurry group selfie with, "Great family day. Couldn't ask for a better crew." My mother commented on Lily's post, "Such a perfect day with our wonderful family." My phone clattered onto the counter. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. I stood there, staring at the counter, at nothing, feeling the blood drain from my face. It wasn't a small gathering. It wasn't last minute. It was a planned event, a significant celebration involving the core family unit, and I wasn't in any of the pictures. I wasn't there. I hadn't been invited. The shock was so profound it stole my breath. This wasn't just forgetting to loop me in. This wasn't just poor communication. This was deliberate. They had planned this, gone to a nice restaurant, celebrated a major milestone, and had simply left me out. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about the party. It was about everything. All the times I'd shown up, all the times I'd fixed things, listened, driven, paid, hosted, only to be cast aside the moment I was inconvenient or, worse, the moment I needed something from them. The lack of support during my breakup, the immediate expectation after I drove 6 hours for Lily, the vague dismissals when I asked about plans, it all coalesced into this single, brutal image on a social media feed. The pain was immense, but underneath it, cold and hard, was a dawning rage, a clarity that cut through years of denial. After the initial shock subsided, a profound stillness settled over me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt empty. And then the anger came, quiet and cold. It wasn't the explosive kind, but a deep, settled fury born of years of being taken for granted. I looked at my phone, which had begun to buzz with notifications, late-night texts from family members who were clearly home now, acting as if it had been just another weekend. "Hope you had a good day. Thinking of you." Insulting. I made a decision in that quiet space. I was done being the default. Done being the fixer of last resort. Done being the convenient resource they could tap into whenever they pleased, and discard when they didn't need me or when I wasn't the version of myself they found useful. I picked up my phone not to reply, but to take back control. I started small. I logged into the shared streaming service accounts they all used but I paid for. I changed the passwords. Then the family phone plan, my account, which I managed and mostly paid for. I looked into removing lines or transferring them. It wasn't about the money, not entirely. It was about the principle. It was about the access they had, the convenience they expected, that I was silently funding and facilitating. I detached my credit card from any shared accounts or services it was linked to for them. It felt clinical, detached, almost surreal. Like dismantling a machine, piece by piece. As I was doing this, the messages from my family escalated. Their initial casual check-ins turned into annoyed texts. "Why aren't you answering?" "Hello. Did you see my text?" Then, frustration set in. "The Disney Plus isn't working, what's going on?" My phone bill bounced. Their inconvenience was my problem, as always. But this time, I didn't rush to fix it. I let the silence hang in the air, a tangible absence of my usual immediate availability. The anger in their messages grew. Lily sent one that read, "Seriously, Sarah? What is your problem? Stop being dramatic." Alexander texted, "Hey, I need you to handle something for me tomorrow. Are you free?" Still no mention of the birthday. Still no apology. Just demands and blame. They were trying to gaslight me, to make me feel like I was the one creating a problem out of nowhere. My recent vulnerability during my breakup likely made them think I was emotionally unstable and would back down easily. But the pain of the birthday exclusion had solidified something cold and unyielding inside me. The next day, the pressure continued. More texts, more calls. Then a knock on my door. My stomach clenched. I looked through the peephole. It was Lily, standing on my porch, looking annoyed rather than concerned. She clearly hadn't expected me not to answer her calls or just open the door. This was new territory for her. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I wouldn't hide, but I wouldn't let her in to walk all over me either. I opened the door just enough to stand in the gap, leaning against the frame. My arms were crossed. I didn't smile. "Lily," I said, my voice flat, devoid of its usual warmth. Her expression shifted slightly, a mix of surprise and irritation. "Finally. Why aren't you answering your phone? I've been trying to reach you." She tried to step past me, a move she'd made countless times before, but I didn't budge. "I saw the pictures from Dad's birthday," I stated, keeping my voice even. She stopped, fidgeting. "Oh, that. Yeah, it was nice. It was kind of last minute." Last minute? I raised an eyebrow slightly. It looked pretty planned. Tables, reservations, everyone dressed up. She flushed, shifting her weight. "Well, I mean, it kind of came together quickly. We didn't think you'd. I don't know. You've been going through a lot. We didn't want to stress you out." The excuse was weak, transparent. She was trying to spin it, to make my recent personal hardship the reason for their exclusion. "Stress me out," I repeated softly, the irony bitter in my mouth. "You thought excluding me from my father's 65th birthday party would reduce my stress?" She looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, I'm not here to argue. Mom's worried. And nobody can log into Disney+. And Alexander needs something from you. My phone plan, my streaming accounts, my availability, those are all things I provided because I thought I was part of the family," I said, ignoring her demands. Seeing that party, seeing the caption about the people who matter most, it made things pretty clear. "That's not fair," she protested, finally looking me in the eye, her voice rising slightly. "We are your family. Are you?" I asked quietly, the question hanging heavy in the air between us. I didn't wait for an answer. I simply pushed the door gently but firmly, closing it between us. I heard her sigh heavily on the other side before her footsteps retreated from the porch. Later that day, while the messages of frustration and attempted manipulation continued intermittently, my phone rang with an unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered, expecting it to be another family member calling from a different phone. "Sarah? Is that you?" "It's Jacob. My cousin Jacob." I hadn't talked to him in depth in years. He was always a bit of an outlier in the family, quieter, marching to his own beat. He was often subtly criticized or seen as difficult because he didn't conform to the family's expectations or participate in the same shallow conversations. My heart skipped a beat. "Jacob? Wow. It's been a while." "Yeah, I know. Sorry to call out of the blue," he said, his voice carrying a mix of weariness and knowing. I saw the pictures from Uncle's birthday. On Facebook. My breath hitched. "Oh. Yeah," he sighed. "Figured you weren't there." "No," I admitted, a fragile thread of connection forming. I wasn't invited." There was a pause on the line. "Yeah. Me neither." His simple words hit me with surprising force. "Jacob too?" He had always seemed distant, but I thought that was his choice. "You weren't invited?" "Nope," he confirmed. Classic move. They always do this. Not just to us, you know. We talked for a long time that evening. Jacob shared his experiences, how he had been subtly pushed away years ago after he questioned some financial decisions my parents made, or after he refused to participate in a family event that felt performative and fake. He told me how they would talk about him behind his back, calling him moody or ungrateful. Hearing his stories, so similar in their underlying dynamic to my own, was incredibly validating. It wasn't just me. It wasn't because I was suddenly weak after my breakup, or because I was dramatic. This was a pattern. A way the core family unit maintained control and their preferred image by slowly marginalizing anyone who didn't fit neatly into the box, anyone who might challenge them, or anyone who stopped being conveniently useful without demanding anything in return. Jacob mentioned others he had noticed drifting away or being quietly excluded over the years. He brought up Aunt Eleanor, my father's older sister, who used to be a central figure, hosting holidays and remembering everyone's birthdays, but had gradually faded from the family picture. She stopped enabling them, Jacob explained. Stopped being the default holiday house. Stopped pretending everything was perfect. They didn't like that. Hearing this, I realized the depth of the family's dysfunction and how long it had been operating. Meeting Jacob in person a couple of days later felt like finding a fellow survivor. We sat in a quiet coffee shop, trading stories and observations about the family dynamics we had both been subjected to. It was cathartic, finally talking to someone who understood without needing endless explanations. While we were there, the family group chat, which had been simmering with low-grade passive aggression, suddenly boiled over. Someone, I suspected Lily, frustrated that her attempts to guilt-trip and manipulate weren't working, posted directly, "Can someone please explain why Sarah and Jacob are acting like this? It's causing so much drama." Other messages followed quickly. Alexander, annoyed about the streaming services, posted, "Yeah, what's the deal? We're family, right? What happened?" Mom chimed in, "We didn't want drama. Things have been tense." A familiar attempt to shift blame and avoid accountability. And Jacob just doesn't seem to want to be involved. The justifications were flimsy, desperate attempts to control the narrative within the chat. Lily tried to paint herself as the hurt party. "I can't believe you just cut us off, Sarah, after everything." Watching their messages appear, seeing their immediate concern was only for their own comfort and convenience, solidified my resolve. Jacob nudged me, a silent understanding passing between us. Taking a deep breath, I typed my message to the group. I didn't write in anger, but with a quiet, devastating calm. "I saw your messages," I wrote. "I also saw the pictures from Dad's birthday. I wasn't invited. Neither was Jacob." When I asked about plans, I was met with vagueness and excuses. Now, when I stop providing the services and access you took for granted, you call it drama and blame me. I paused, then continued, choosing my words carefully. For years, I was the one who showed up, who listened, who helped, who hosted, who gave, even when I was struggling myself and you weren't there for me. I did it because I thought that's what family was. But your actions, culminating in a celebration of the people who matter most, that deliberately excluded me, have made it clear. My role wasn't about family to you. It was about convenience. You took because I let you. That ends now. I finished with the boundaries I had decided on. I won't be your default fixer anymore. I won't be available on demand. I won't fund services you expect access to without contributing. If you are ever genuinely ready to talk, not about what you need from me, but about what happened in the dynamics that led to this, you know how to reach me. Until then, please respect my space." I hit send. The chat went silent. The bouncing dots under someone's name appeared for a moment, then vanished. The silence was heavy, but this time, it felt like my own silence, a space I had claimed. Jacob smiled, a genuine warm smile I hadn't seen before. "Damn, Sarah. Well said." "Feels weird," I admitted. Relief, sadness, a flicker of fear for the future, and a profound sense of stepping off a treadmill I'd been on my whole life. Over the next few weeks, the silence from the core family was mostly maintained, punctuated only by a few more manipulative attempts that I calmly deflected or ignored. The hardest part was fighting the ingrained habit of wanting to fix it, of feeling guilty for disrupting the peace, their comfort. But the silence was filled by something new. Jacob and I started talking regularly. We reached out to Aunt Eleanor. Talking to her was like uncovering a hidden history of our family. She shared stories of previous generations, of who was in and who was out, revealing patterns of control and exclusion that stretched back decades. She had a quiet strength and wisdom forged by her own experience of being sidelined. We started meeting up, first just the three of us, then including a few others, cousins or more distant relatives who had also felt the chill of the core family's conditional acceptance. There was a cousin who had been cut off after a business failure, deemed not successful enough. There was Aunt Eleanor's daughter, Emily, who had always felt like a background character. We were the island of exiles, finding each other in the vast ocean of family dysfunction. These new gatherings were nothing like the old ones. There was no pretense, no expected roles, no subtle jabs, no demands. We just talked, really listened to each other, shared food, played board games Jacob brought. There was laughter, genuine support, and an easy comfort that was utterly foreign yet instantly familiar. My friend Claire, outside the family drama, was an incredible source of support, reminding me that choosing peace and self-respect wasn't selfish, it was necessary. When the holidays rolled around, it felt strange not to be coordinating everything, not to have the usual frantic energy of preparing my house for a crowd that rarely offered to help. There were moments of quiet sadness, grieving the idea of the family I had always wanted, but there was also profound peace. I spent Christmas morning quietly in my own home, just me. I cooked a simple meal I enjoyed, read a book by the fireplace, savored the stillness. Later, I joined Jacob, Aunt Eleanor, and a few others for a warm, low-key dinner. No drama, no demands, just good conversation and genuine company. I looked around the table at these people, my chosen family, who saw me, truly saw me, without expecting anything in return. They didn't care about what I could fix for them, or what role I played in maintaining a facade. They cared about who I was. I hadn't bought my place at this table with favors or sacrifices. I had earned it by simply being myself, and by recognizing their worth, too. The old family reached out occasionally, usually when they needed something, or with passive-aggressive updates about their lives. I responded sparingly, maintaining the boundaries I had set. The painful sting of the exclusion had faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. I had lost a family based on obligation and convenience, but I had found, and was building, a family based on respect and genuine connection. And that was a trade I would make any day.